Okay, there's something about size there, so that's centimeters. So it's not terribly large. But anyway, what we're looking at is a Dicranum, and if I can do this right, so this is a moss that is, I'm going to say typically on wood, maybe, sort of. This one's one of the species that's actually on the soil. It's very common on logs and whatnot in the Pacific Northwest and whatnot. So it's one of the ones you'll see. So it's got that yellow-green look to it, but it's usually very shiny too. So a lot of them will have very sickle-shaped leaves. This one I collected, and it doesn't have any fruiting structure. That right there is a hyphum. It's actually very delightful. Revolutum, you can see it's how the leaves are curled, but you can see it's the difference in that than the Dicranum. So they tend to be tufted. They got, but you can see they're more or less straight up and down. So far the characteristics are fairly typical. I'd say a bit smaller maybe than some of the ones I've seen. Leaves are not as sickle-shaped as a lot of species. And it's not terribly obvious here, but see some white hairs up here. You see all these red hairs down here. So I didn't have any capsules, so when I pursued identifying it, I could only use these vegetative characteristics. And it seems rhabdocarpum, the bryophytes of Colorado, actually listed quite a few. It looks like about 10 species, which is kind of surprising. The mosses of Utah in the West, in contrast, only listed 3 species of Dicranum, and this is not one of them. But anyway, it does fit all the characteristics. It is on the soil. This is on the perimeter trail, and because it's winter, it's more obvious. I mean, they're under snow more often than not. One of the things that Dicranums do have. See if I can do this without upsetting. But if you rub them, you see the leaves pop off. That's one of the characteristics of Dicranums. So anyway, a log slash soil tufted moss. Actually, in Florida, I would say the leucobriums kind of fit this ecological niche. But in Oregon, it's quite typical. And most, anyway, it's fairly typical. But anyway, there you go, Dicranum, and I'll write down the name on the site for 2 or 3 people to look at.